Get that confirmation we are live on the Fest page, and we will get this rolling. We'll be rolling in with a hot Slipstream interview. There we go.
Ooh,
We are now rolling in.
always loving it.
Always. Alright, live there. How does it look? Alright, awesome. Alright. Hello, everyone. Welcome to something new on this channel. We've got the first ever runner spotlight. So what this is going to be is before a marathon takes place, there will be interviews with upcoming runners, and we get to talk with them about their run, what makes their run really awesome, and then a bit about them. It'll be very chill, and it'll be a pretty good time. And our first guest here, we're going to be starting off with Newt, who will be running Slipstream, which is a pretty awesome racing game. And yeah,
It's a pretty awesome game.
it's just a very awesome game in general.
Yes. And thank you for having me, Ubi.
Yeah, anytime. I'm glad you're able to do this after sent to the rescheduling underworld. We had to reschedule so many times, and yeah, it's good.
That's A-okay.
Yeah. All right. I've got my list of questions here, though, and we will get
Awesome.
this rolling. So, why don't you just start by introducing yourself? Just tell us about yourself, your history in speedrunning and whatnot.
Okay, yeah. I'm Newt. I started speedrunning probably, that was back in 2012, 2013, somewhere around there. Of course, like a lot of people in today's speedrunning era, I didn't know that speedrunning existed or that there was a community for it until I started seeing the GDQ highlights on YouTube, like the VODs and stuff. And I saw them in like 2012 or whatever, and I was like, wow, that's crazy. People
Yeah.
actually just like sit down and play games as quickly as they can. I fell in love with it right away because that's kind of my mindset when I'm playing games too, is that I just love to like challenge myself to beat them in certain ways. Definitely not like a completionist like some of my other friends were, and they'd get mad at me for, just skipping everything in games as I played them. Yeah, I guess I first started out speedrunning. It was the Fancy Pants Adventures Flash Games series
Yeah.
um, that were popular like in the mid 2000s, and I think the first one that I speedrun, speedran, whatever the past tense of speedrun is. I played World 2 in the Fancy Pants Adventures games, and that was like my first big game that I sat down and grinded out a bunch to try to get better at. Yeah, that was sort of my entry into speedrunning.
So why was it Fancy Pants in particular? What kind of led you to start running it?
I guess it's a game that I had played when I was younger, a lot on
Okay.
the computers. I didn't really get a whole lot of consoles growing up, so I didn't play some of your more classic platformers super often. I had played a little bit of like Donkey Kong Country and Super Mario World, but I didn't own them and I wasn't playing them like constantly.
Sure.
So like Flash games is what I played a lot of when I was in like elementary school. Um, and it was around that same time that I started seeing the GDQ stuff is when I discovered that there was a plugin on the computers at the high school that I went to that would allow you to play Super Fancy Pants Adventure World 2. I One of those years I had a study hall class, so
Oh.
I'd like sit there the whole time and just play Fancy Pants. It was awesome.
Yep. I mean, does anyone really study in study hall? It's all about yeah, exactly.
Not at all.
Yeah. It's about seeing what Flash games you can
Yeah,
play on
exactly.
the school Wi-Fi.
That's exactly what it is. And it was awesome. A couple friends of mine that I played with and actually had a couple races with them before I even realized that speedrunning was a thing. So it was just sort of set up for success in that regard.
That's awesome. You can get people
Yeah.
like that together for it.
Yeah, exactly.
And you've also, so you've been running at Fest for quite a while, but yeah, you've done Fancy Pants, you've also done Bugdom. So could you tell us a little bit about that one?
Yeah, so Bugdom 2 was, I guess, the first real game that I started speedrunning. I mean, Fancy Pants Adventure World 2 is definitely a decent platformer. It's like 7 minutes long, and it's a Flash game, so
Yeah.
Flash games aren't typically regarded as real games in the speedrunning community, unfortunately.
Very unfortunately.
Yeah, because it's a fun run. No, but Bugdom 2 is a game that I played a lot of when I was a lot younger than that. See, I didn't have a whole lot of consoles growing up, but we did have one of those iMac computers, like the big,
Yeah.
colorful ones that were, you know, like had the big shell and everything.
It takes up a freaking room. It's so big and like,
God,
yeah.
yeah, exactly.
Yep.
Good times. But Bugdom 2 was a game that came preloaded onto those computers. And I had played the original Bugdom when I was younger than that. Bugdom 1 came out in 1999. Bugdom 2 came out in 2003 or 2002, I want to say. So this was really far back in my timeline of life. But Bugdom 2 I had played a lot when I was younger, and I still had it on my computer, so I thought, you know, might as well boot it up and see what I can do, because I could not find anything online anywhere of anybody speedrunning that game previously. I mean, there were a couple videos on YouTube of people just like playing through the first couple levels or whatever, but they did it the normal way, the boring way.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I soon found out just how broken that game was.
Very.
You can clip through just about any wall. the whole game. You can jump over every gate that you need to get a key for, so you don't have to collect any of the keys like in any of the levels. You can just jump over the gate by like wedging yourself in between like an angle in the wall and just spamming jump a bunch of times right over the top of it.
That's great.
Yeah, that was fun. So that's sort of the story of Bugdom 2. It wasn't anything too crazy. I mean, I played it a bunch until I grinded out a time that I thought was decent enough, and then eventually, like 2 years after I started running it, somebody else came along and snagged the world record from me because I hadn't used a strat that I had found in one of my previous runs or whatever, and then yeah, so that brought me back to it, and I played it again and beat the world record, and actually beat this guy's sum of best by like 2 or 3 seconds.
Nice. So, well done.
Yeah, blew it out of the water. That game is toast. Please, somebody run it again. It's a lot of fun. But no, that's Bugdom 2. It was a good time.
And then, lastly, the run you have done at Fest. I think you know where this is going. It's the ever great game Balls of Fury for the Wii, which is so why?
So the story with this game, I found it at a local game store when I was in college for like $2, and I was like, might as well buy it and, you know, see how it is, play it, whatever. But I picked it up, and around the same time was the 12-hour challenge. So I decided, why not? I'll do 12-hour challenge for this game. See what I can do with it. Oh, wow. I never should have done that. It's a terrible game. It's a terrible speed run. You just like it's all just RNG. That's all that it is. You can say like, oh, there's a little bit of skill, like hitting the ball back or whatever, but no, it's just it all depends on whether or not your opponent hits the ball back to you or if they miss. It's all it is. It's so stupid.
It's just a giant 50-50 coin flip.
Yeah, exactly. It's a terrible game, but kind of fun. I mean, doing that run at midwinter this past winter was a lot of fun. The run went as terribly as it could, but I still had a blast doing it. and I think other people did too. Had fun tweeting out at Terry Crews during the run and everything. It was a good time.
That block of games was just wonderful that Saturday morning.
It was a good time. That was Wii Fit was right afterwards, right?
Yeah, I think it was Mario Sports Mix, and then you were on, and then it was Wii Fit. It was Wii Sports Games
the
block.
Sports block.
Yeah.
That was a good time.
It was.
That was awesome.
So since we've talked a bit about Fest, where and when did you first hear about it?
Oh, how did I first hear about it?
I know it's been a while.
It was fall of 2017 because MidFall Speedball was the first Fest event that I attended. I want to say I just... Oh, you know what? No. Here it was. So, since I got started speedrunning, I've always been... or I had been a frequenter on Speed Demos Archive. And I've done work with them doing game verification and some of the more technical work on that side of stuff. But I was browsing the forums one time just looking at community marathons because I was interested to see what other stuff was going on around the country or if there was anything local, and I saw the advertisement for MidFall Speedball on Speed Demos Archive. And I was like, okay, I'll check this out. It happens in Minneapolis. It should be a good time. And so I submitted my runs for it, and lo and behold, there I was, speedrunning Bugdom 2 and Marble Blast.
Yeah!
Beginner levels at some local speedrunning marathon. And it was a lot of fun.
Yeah.
I didn't... It was interesting because at that time I didn't realize how much bigger Midwest Speedfest was than MidFall Speedball was. So I showed up and there were like, what, 15 people there total?
Yeah.
Around there.
Probably about that much.
I was like, wow, this is a really, really small event, and it wasn't until afterwards that I saw the VODs from previous Midwest Speedfest events. I was like, oh, wow. Mm-hmm. They draw in a crowd for their actual events.
Yeah.
Not the sideshow.
Hey, it's still that was a fun marathon though.
It was a lot of fun.
It was a good time.
It was a really good time. Hopefully I kind of want to learn like medium or intermediate levels for Marble Blast. So maybe someday Marble Blast will come back.
I would love that. All right, so we've gone through the past now. We're going to journey to the present. Let's talk about Slipstream. So what is Slipstream?
Slipstream is a pseudo 3D graphics racing game, sort of stylized as the classic arcade racing games of like the late 80s, early 90s. I think Outrun is the one that comes to mind as being like the biggest inspiration for the game.
Yeah.
But there are a bunch of other like arcade games in SNES and NES, or SNES and Genesis era games that it draws inspiration from, all affixed to this very synthwave, vaporwave aesthetic. It's a beautiful game, and it handles really, really well. It's just a great time overall. I guess I first saw the game. I think I was watching Kona Sumi's stream one day, and I saw him playing the game. I was like, wow, this is an awesome game. And I picked it up like immediately after I saw him playing it. And so I started running it, or playing it, I guess, more last summer. It was last summer I started playing it a lot. And it was around that time that Kona Sumi submitted it for AGDQ this past year. Right. Which he was unfortunately not able to attend. It did get in, but he wasn't able to make it to the event. But thankfully it got back in for SGDQ as a race with Kona Sumi and What Is Kelvin. And I got to hang out and play Slipstream with them, and it was an awesome time. It's an awesome game.
And you were couching that run too.
I did, yeah.
Yeah.
That was that was my first experience on the GDQ stage, which was honestly not as nerve-wracking as I thought it was going to be.
Yeah.
I felt pretty relaxed for the most part up there. I mean, it's hard not to feel relaxed when you're watching Slipstream, so.
Right, because of the aesthetic that goes on in it.
Oh yeah, exactly.
Since you mentioned, oh yeah, what's up? Yeah, you go on. Sorry, I.
Oh, I wasn't saying anything.
Oh.
It's all you. Go on. Go for it.
I was gonna mention. You mentioned the soundtrack. We do have that playing in the background right now.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. It's good music. It's awesome music.
So, do you and Kona Sumi go way back then? Because I feel like you run a lot of things that he also does.
Really, Slipstream is the only thing that the two of us have run together. But I met Kona Sumi back at SGDQ 2017.
Okay.
That was the first GDQ that I went to. Again, I didn't really know anybody in the speedrunning community at that point. There was a friend of mine that I met while I was at college, Yellow Torpedo. He's a Twilight Princess speedrunner. And the two of us decided to go to SGDQ together that year. I had been wanting to go to GDQ since I first saw them back in 2013, but never really found the time or ability to get to one. But yeah, so I went to SGDQ 2017, and I know Torp and his brother Stairmaster were good friends with Kona Sumi and sort of that his friend group, and they sort of introduced me to the lot. And it was like Tuesday morning, and Kona Sumi ran Omnibus.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. That was that run. Except it was at like 3 o'clock in the morning that he ran it. So we got up and watched this run at 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was awesome. And that was the first time that I met Kona Sumi, and then we've just sort of hung out at every GDQ since.
That's awesome. GDQs are so great for like, you just meet people there, you just become GDQ friends, see them,
right? It's fantastic.
I've
met so many awesome people at GDQs.
Yeah.
And Midwest Speedfest is the same way. Like, I met you and some of the other guys at MidFall Speedball, and I might have been awkward as heck that first time that I went, because I didn't know anybody, but it was awesome getting to see you guys again, like at different events later on.
Yeah,
it's so great for community. I love meeting people. It's fun.
It's just a good time. Yeah. Alright. So, what do you most enjoy about running Slipstream?
It's super satisfying when things go well. I think that's the biggest thing. The movement just feels so tight, and I don't know how to explain it. It's just like super satisfying when you're able to pull off like a really tight corner or sneak in between two other cars and drift around them. It's really fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sometimes that's all you need in a run, right? Is just satisfying. Exactly. Yeah, satisfying movement.
Not to mention that it's just a beautiful game anyway, and it's a lot of fun to play just in general. And I feel like Slipstream has that natural, it has a really natural feeling difficulty curve. So it's pretty hard when you first get into it, but the more and more you play, the easier and easier it gets, and the faster and faster times you start getting, and the more and more fun that it is to play.
Right. That's
because of that.
It's kind of the racing game thing, right? You just kind of have to keep playing it, and
Well, most racing games, anyway.
Is there a certain racing game? a certain animal racing game?
There is an animal racing game. It's pretty wild, I hear. Doesn't have quite the same difficulty curve that Slipstream does. It might not be as satisfying as Slipstream. or maybe it is as satisfying as Slipstream when things go well, because things rarely go well. So when it does happen, you're like, oh my god, thankfully, finally.
So we're speaking of things going well. What are some things you want to have people notice in your run? So if someone's watching this game for the first time, what are some techniques you really want them to know?
Yeah, so I guess the biggest technique to look out for is how we utilize the slipstream mechanic in the game. So the slipstream mechanic is sort of like the drafting in this game, where you get behind another enemy car for a certain amount of time and you get a little boost from it. But that boost continues to build as long as you maintain that slipstream behind enemy cars. So you can chain a bunch of slipstreams, like be drafting off of one car and drift off and get another slipstream off of another car, and try to extend that and try to build up your acceleration more and more. But also we do a technique called bump drafting. It's hard to do well, just in the sense that hitting another car from behind will slow you down, but it slows you down only as much as like how much faster you are going than the car in front of you. So if the car in front of you is going like super slow, you'll slow down a ton. Whereas if the car in front of you is going just a little bit faster than you don't really lose a whole lot of speed. And so by getting behind a car that's just barely moving faster than you, or just barely moving slower than you, excuse me, you can get a slipstream and then bump that car, push it forward. You lose a little bit of speed, but it's less speed than you regain from the slipstream that you're in.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you can use that to really accelerate your car, especially down long straightaways. And you'll see that in between each of the stages. I guess I could explain Cannonball as well.
Yeah.
Which is it's the game mode that I'll be playing. It's sort of a hodgepodge of all of the game modes thrown into one. It's a mess sometimes, but it's so much fun. So you've got you'll be racing against 14 other cars, and that's what happens in the Grand Prix modes. You race against a bunch of other vehicles, and they're there the whole time with you. So you have to be fighting against those guys. And we have everything set at maximum settings, so as many vehicles as there can be. You'll be racing against traffic, which are a bunch of cars that are moving much slower relative to you than the enemy cars. And those are thrown in from arcade mode or Grand Tour mode, it is nowadays. And then also from Grand Tour mode is rivals. So every stage will be facing against a different rival. These are named characters that have a little bit of flavor text when you pass them, or when you beat them, or when you lose to them. Some familiar, some not so familiar. So watch out for some familiar faces in that run. Oh yeah, and then we'll be going through all 20 of the stages. So in the game there are 20 different stages, and we'll do one lap of each.
You'll get to see a certain painter.
Oh yeah. Yep.
But
Only happy little accidents.
I think the combination of the bump drafting technique and the traffic is really kind of unique for this run, because most racing games, it's you'll like run into someone and then that's going to slow you down. But this, you want to bump into them and gain speed from them, and then
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, but you can't just do the same positions every time. You have to adapt. So is there like certain points you try to get the bump drafts on more than others in certain stages?
Yeah, so like I said before, it's hard to get an efficient bump draft off of another vehicle if it's moving a lot slower than you are, because then you'll lose a bunch of speed. And so you sort of have to watch out for vehicles that are going much slower than you are, otherwise you'll spin out and lose like all of your speed. So I guess the most useful place for bump drafting is if you do make a mistake and slow down a little bit. It's really nice to start bump drafting off of another car to really pick up your speed back to your max speed as quickly as possible. Other than that, like I said, straightaways are usually the the best place, the easiest place to bump draft. The corners can be super unforgiving when you're bump drafting, because one mistake, if you spin out while you're drifting around a corner, you lose your drift. So all of a sudden you'll be going from taking a really tight turn to going really wide, and that can throw you into the outside of the turn.
Yeah.
And then you'll lose even more speed to like almost an unrecoverable point.
So it's a lot to look out for.
Yeah. There's a lot that happens in Cannonball. There's a lot going on constantly.
I kind of think of it like randomizer for Slipstream almost, because the stage order and
Yeah, I'll do a random stage order, so I never know which stage is coming up next. Thankfully, at this point, I've memorized all of the stages, so, well, let's knock on wood on that one. I generally know what's coming up next, so, yeah. Other than that, yeah, random stages. The traffic is all random too. It'll spawn in at different points.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's messy, but it's a really fun game mode.
It's great. So what is the Slipstream community like?
Slipstream community is it's interesting because there are a few of us that hang out and talk about things every now and then. Like I said, Kona, Sumi, What is Calvin are pretty active in the community. Just a couple weeks ago, I had a race against Calvin, and I'm sort of I'm trying to push for more involvement in the Slipstream community, or get us to do more things. Because when I did that race against Calvin, we did an all cups race, so Sapphire, Emerald, or Sapphire, Ruby, Emerald, and Diamond Cup back to back to back to back, which was like an hour and a half long, but it was a lot of fun. It was really fun just to sit down and play the game with somebody. So I've been trying to get more people to maybe hop in on races like once every couple weeks or so, play the different game modes and stuff. Otherwise, there is a little bit of a disconnect between the speedrunning community and then like the general leaderboards for the game, because there are online leaderboards for the game through Steam. However, it's really easy to tell that not all of the times on there are possible.
They're completely legit.
Yeah, exactly. You have times like for like one of the cups, like say just like Sapphire Cup, and the top time on the leaderboards is like 12 minutes, which is completely impossible. There's no way you can get 12 minutes on a run. So it's hard to tell which runs are true and which ones aren't. So I mean, I've sort of been pushing for like the whole no vid, no did thing, but not everybody has access to recording software and stuff like that. So
sure,
what do you do?
Yeah.
I've tried to reach out to people that I found on the leaderboards that I was able to just like stalk on Twitter or on Steam and try to add them or whatever. Try to get them to join the Discord. Other than that, I mean, Ansdor, he's the guy that made the game. The only developer. He did all of the coding, all of the artwork for the game, everything, except for the soundtrack. But Ansdor has been super involved with the community and super awesome, super friendly. He's a really cool guy. And then FORK, spelled EFFOHARKAY, is the guy who made this awesome soundtrack that you're listening to. A really talented musician. He's also involved with... He's on the Discord and will post music updates and stuff there every now and then, which is really cool.
That's awesome. I think it's cool that you're reaching out to people and trying to grow things, because I think that's definitely like that's super important for any game to grow, right?
Yeah, exactly.
And then you're also that the devs are in the community is really cool.
Oh yeah, the dev.
Yeah,
singular dev.
Yeah, the dev.
It's awesome because it gives us a I mean, it's great for both the players and the developer because we're able to give feedback really easily to the developer. Um, and I mean, it's really encouraging for players to have the developer there and talking to you about the game and stuff. It's just like a really cool feeling, I guess.
Yeah, I feel that. All right. So I feel like that's a good summary of Slipstream. Is there anything else you wanted to add to it?
No, that pretty much covers it. I mean, stick around and watch the run on Friday evening at 5 o'clock.
Yep.
I think it is around 5 o'clock p.m.
5, yeah.
Yeah, it should be a good time.
Oh, 5 Central Time.
5 Central.
Yes.
On that first Friday of Midwest Speedfest.
Mm-hmm.
Slipstream is just an awesome game. You really have to see it to believe it. It's really fun, and I encourage anyone out there to buy it.
It's great. So finally, I just want to go into some other activities, hobbies you have outside of speedrunning. So I understand you're into cooking.
A little bit, yeah. I mean, I like to eat good food, so I like to cook good food.
What food do you like best? Why is pesto the besto? Give us this rundown.
Okay. Picture this. You have like this super sweet, like slightly bitter, just flavorful herb. Just like the most flavorful leaf in the world, this basil leaf. Toss that into a blender with a bunch of garlic, which in itself is just like, just the flavor, nature's flavor bomb. Throw in there some pine nuts, which are these, again, another amazing flavorful thing with a bunch of olive oil.
There you go.
Olive oil, like the most flavorful, awesome oil.
Yes.
Mix that all together. Throw in some Parmesan cheese on top of that. Just a delicious, like, salty, awesome cheese. Oh, it's just the best sauce out there. There's no, you can't beat it.
It's the besto.
It really is the besto. And tell you what, if you ever get the opportunity, grow your own basil, make your own pesto, because it is worth it.
Yeah, so how long have you been gardening for? What got you interested in that? Gardening, cooking, that sort of
Gardening.
area. Yeah.
Gardening, I got into, my mom ran a garden a bunch when I was growing up, and so I was helping out with that most summers. Yeah, I just really enjoyed it. I remember, like, in elementary school, times when I'd get home from school and just walk up to our garden and pick, like, beans or peas off of the vines and snack on them when I got home from school. It's just awesome.
That's super cool.
It's like you grew this is yours that you don't have to pay for, essentially.
Yeah.
Which is awesome. I don't know. Gardening's just really cool. I did it a bunch when I was in elementary school, like I said. College got tougher because I didn't have like the means to garden a whole lot. But college is where I started cooking more because, well, you're thrown into college, you have to start cooking for yourself sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, there's only so much instant ramen or so much mac and cheese that you can suffer before you're like, I need real food. I want like a good meal without paying like $20 for it at some restaurant.
Yeah.
That's just how it came to be.
It's out of necessity. Yep.
Yeah, out of necessity. And like, it was like my junior year of college. I was living in a house with a bunch of cross-country teammates of mine, and we'd cook meals together like every night. It was awesome. We'd go grocery shopping together and cook our own meals, and it was fantastic. It was a learning experience, that's for sure. There were plenty of meals that I made that weren't great, but we got there.
Hey, that's how it goes.
Yeah.
So, how long have you been running for? I understand you've been interested in that.
Yeah, well, I've ran cross country. I ran it all through college, all through high school. So since since 7th grade, pretty much, however many years that is now. How old was I in 7th grade? Like 12? So like
Um, yeah,
11 years, 11, 12 years, 12 years,
yeah.
something like that. Yeah, I've ran a bunch, done a couple half marathons, which is cool. But I love skiing in the winter, cross country skiing. By far, like my most favorite activity is cross country skiing. It's nothing quite like I've been doing that longer than I have like running competitively. So
I feel like you need such a strong mental endurance for that kind of thing. Is that accurate?
it depends, I guess. Like being competitive in those sports more so
Okay,
because it's the training that's the hardest. The
gotcha.
training is definitely the hardest part about competing in, like cross country or other endurance sports.
Hmm.
Because the races, I mean, you're training to make the races feel easier, is
Yeah.
essentially what you're doing, and so 9 times out of 10, your training days are going to be harder than your race day. Well, not 9 times out of 10. Your hard days training are going to be way harder than your race days,
Hmm.
essentially. Um, so it's all about like like not losing your mental stability in training is the hardest part.
Yeah. Just gotta keep going at it.
Yeah,
Hmm.
exactly.
So, what are some of your future goals and plans? Would running cross country be involved with that? Any of the gardening or any future speedrunning plans or goals?
Yeah, well, I'm gonna keep gardening for sure. Like I said, I'm growing basil right now. I've got a bunch of that. I've got peppers that I'm growing, right, like habanero peppers,
Oh,
and several trees as well. Um, at the house that I live at right now, we have a bunch of trees that have been dying in our yard over the past couple of years. So I'm taking it upon myself to start growing tree seedlings to replant like maples and pine trees and spruce trees and stuff like that.
that's awesome.
And I want to keep gardening because gardening is fun. Um, Running, I'd like to do another half marathon at some point. I've really been working on my training for that lately. Uh, this week, actually, I'm scheduled to hit 25 miles this week, which is like the most I've done in a year, about or
Wow.
over a year. Yeah. Which isn't super impressive to a lot of like distance runners out there, but every little bit counts.
Yeah.
Otherwise, speedrunning plans. Oh, I don't know. I would like to pick up another game here at some point. I know Torp has wanted me to pick up Twilight Princess any percent at some point, and I might at some point.
Ooh, that would
We'll
be
see.
really cool. Yeah.
That'd be the first game that I'd play that's like the run isn't like 20 minutes long or less.
Oh,
So we will see how that goes. Other than that, Slipstream is still fun. I'll keep grinding out Wild Animal Racing to see if they ever accept that into GDQ. Maybe they will someday. I don't know. Um, I've been looking at the game Newt 1 that Helix showed me.
oh yeah.
Yeah, Helix showed me that at SGDQ this year a bunch, and it's a really cool game. It has really awesome movement. So I'll
Yeah.
look into that a bit more. Other than that, see what games come out, see what strikes me as interesting.
I mean, Newt one. It's in your name, Newt. So like.
It is. It's true. It's destiny.
Yeah. All right. Well, I had fun at this.
Yeah, I
I
did too.
I just want to thank you for coming out for this. Be sure to check out Newt's run of Slipstream, 5 p.m. Central Time at MidFall Speedfest.
Should be a good time.
Yep, it'll be August 23rd. Um, anything else you'd like to say before we end this first ever runner spotlight?
Pesto is the pesto.
we were we were t-
So good.
We were talking with setting up, and just like jokingly said pesto's besto, and then he just busted out, and I just got completely wrecked. Like, did not expect it.
No, you asked me if I had the pesto. You're like, oh, do you have the pesto?
Like,
and I was like, oh yeah, I do.
Yeah, actually got it. Like, did not.
It's so good. It's so good. Ah, it's amazing. What can I say?
Oh, and you know what? I actually want to give chat's a little spotlight. There's questions here. There is
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, there is Bad Vibes Forever who asks, what is your most important personal dream? Not like a sleeping dream, but like yeah.
I want to strive to make other people happy. That's my biggest personal dream. Is to make sure that the people around me are happy and smiling. I guess.
I feel you though.
My goal in life.
Hey, that's a great goal though.
Yeah. Other than that, I aspire to be I aspired to grow old and become a wise, old, like, Uncle Iroh figure. About just share tea with people and have a good time.
Back in my day, I was running Slipstream and...
Back in my day, wild animal racing. Something about it. Back in my day, Wild Animal Racing was the greatest JRPG of our country. You young whippersnappers with your Final Fantasy 211.
200. Alright. On that note, thank you so much for coming out. Really appreciate this.
Thank you for having me.
Be sure to catch Newt's run, and we will have more of these. You can stick around for those. You might see some more Newt. You might, I don't know. It could happen.
You'll have to show up to find out.
Alright. But thank you all. Let's see who we can raid. You get to choose, Newt.
I get to choose. Oh boy, who's streaming these days?
We will pick from past Fest runners. So we've got... Alright, I see Belthic is playing Wolfenstein. There's Kronos Returns doing Halo Combat Evolved runs, and Myo Mike doing Live Any %. So from those three.
Let's go drop a bomb on Mike.
Mike? It's a good choice. Yeah. Alright. We are going to go to Myo Mike doing Live Any %. He will be coming out to Fest too. Let me pull that up. My computer does not want to cooperate. There we go. Now it's cooperating. Alright. Go share some love with Mike. Got some nice actual JRPG action.
Actual JRPG. Okay. Like Wild Animal Racing in an actual JRPG.
I know, right? Alright. Thank you all for coming out. And we'll see you later.
Yeah. Bye.